Well, hey everybody, and welcome to the Chronic Hope podcast. This is episode 17. It's the journey of a wife and a mom dealing with addiction in her family, and we are going to introduce our guest today is a great person that's part of our Chronic Hope Institute Facebook page, and she sent us a message saying, "I need help, and I want to have questions." And her name is Tina Barney, and she is joining us from Phoenix. Actually, well, you live in Phoenix, Arizona, but where are you?
I am in Sedona, Arizona. My husband and I are camp hosts here this summer, so I'm in the tool shed currently.
Well, okay, that's awesome. Well, I want to hear all about that. Like, hey, the Chronic Hope Institute podcast is the only podcast that exists for helping families that are struggling with addiction and codependency. And our mission is to support families that are struggling with addiction and codependency and offer education and support for mental health professionals and medical health professionals. We need to put that in there, my bad, about families, addiction, and codependency. You can subscribe to the Chronic Hope Podcast YouTube page and to the Chronic Hope Podcast Apple Podcast page and give us a 5-star rating and put some notes in there. And that would really help us because that would expand our reach and be able to help more people. So one of the things we do here at the Chronic Hope Podcast Institute is we do interviews of people in the industry, but we're also doing interviews of folks that are currently dealing with the struggle of addiction in their family. And Tina emailed us, and that's how we found her. And so, Tina, tell us a little bit about your family situation.
Well, started probably back in the mid 90s, late 90s, early 2000. My ex-husband hurt himself in an accident, and that was when opioid pain medication was being prescribed, like Pez candy, and he was given the pain medication, became addicted to it. And then eventually I did end up having to leave him because of the addiction, but eventually started using heroin because he couldn't get the pills anymore. And it was a horrible time. He was on the street, living literally on the streets on the canal in Phoenix for several years. I'm glad to say that he is better now, and he is a big advocate of recovery, but it was very painful to watch someone you love self-destruct like that. While that was going on, my oldest daughter, Paige, at 21, she had always smoked a little pot. I think she had probably dabbled in pills as well. I think, her dad was like, "Oh, you have a headache? Here, take a Percocet," So she kind of knew that feeling. But at 21, on her 21st birthday, she went to a party and somebody gave her heroin to smoke. And that was 11 years ago. And it's been 11 years of just basically, suffering for all of us as her loved ones. I think she suffers with this too. I mean, it's very painful for her to watch her destroy her relationships, because I know she loves her family deeply.
Yeah.
And yeah. So it's just been a big struggle. She's been in and out of prison. Ironically, she's never had a drug charge except for a small misdemeanor. It's all been charges related to, things she was doing to get money or, to get drugs. So,
which, I mean, and given the nature of the people that I work with and the people that watch our show and listen to our show, that's their greatest nightmare, right? Is their spouse, spiraling out of control and having to leave them. And then also their children, spiraling out of control and having to make some hard decisions around that. And I'm curious, sort of with Paige, what did you try? What I want to relate to the folks that are watching and that I know that are like, they think that they can try to micromanage their lives and control them. And did you try that, and how did it work?
Yes, of course. I think every, you go through this process of, oh, okay, I'm gonna throw everything I have at you. Something has to stick. So you're gonna go to the expensive recovery. You're gonna go to I'm going to watch everything. I'm going to put a tracker on your phone. I'm going to, pay for your phone because I want to be able to contact you. I went through so many, we're trying different things, and honestly, nothing has worked, because she has to be the one that wants to change. I can't want it for her. And I think I'm finally to the point where I recognize that, and this is, like I said, 10 years later, that I can't do it for her. I can't want it for her. She has to want a better life. And I think I reached out to you like maybe about a month ago, because she had gotten out of prison in December. This was her third time. And she got out of prison in December. And I just, we set a contract, and I am remarried now. And it does help to have another objective person that maybe doesn't, not that he doesn't love her, but he doesn't have the history, and he's very objective. So he can even temper me when he sees me going off the rails. So we had a contract with what was going to be acceptable to remain in our home, and she broke some of those rules. And so I was reaching out. It's like, because I was scared. It's terrifying to watch your child self-destruct. It is. And even if you want to be, hard, this is the role, and if you don't follow it, it's like, my thought was, okay, if I kick her out, she's homeless. She has no resources. She just got out of prison. And, you told me, well, she's killing herself anyway. Like, I can't remember exactly what you told me, but it was really good. Maybe you remember.
Well, yeah, I do. and I remember we talked, and I remember you saying, I'm afraid that if I just shut the door on her and push her out the door, that she's just going to go out and kill herself. And based upon what you had shared with me, what she was doing, the drugs that she was doing, and the lifestyle she was leading, what I said was, well, she's already killing herself. That's what's happening. So why not offer her a solution, but with really firm, strong boundaries, and saying, I love you and I'll help you. But if you're going to choose to continue to do drugs and to continue to follow this lifestyle, then you can't live here. You can't take the family down with you. And it sounds like you took that advice.
Yes, I did. So she moved out. We were coming up here for the summer, and my other children my youngest daughter was going to move into the house because she wasn't going to be able to stay there. So she moved out, and she did find a place to stay interim. And then because it's funny, because she was on probation, and she asked for this. This is how I know that she's kind of changing. When she was sentenced, she asked for intensive probation for her misdemeanor marijuana charge. So she did her full time for her felony, but now that she's gotten out, she's on the intensive probation she asked for, and she has an amazing probation officer that doesn't get paid enough, advocating for her and holding her accountable in a strict but supportive way. And so I think, and that was the other thing, I had a conversation with her probation officer too. And so both of us, came up with, she had already had the plan that she has to go to sober living. If she wasn't living under my roof, she had to go to sober living. She wasn't going to be allowed to just, live with friends and that sort of thing while she was on probation. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I was happy yesterday. We kind of talked before the show. She contacted me, and she did find a sober living on her own. I did not do that for her.
Good for you. Say that again.
She found a sober living on her own. I did not do that for her. Yeah, I got to keep. And she did ask me if I would pay for the first week, because it's $175 a week. Yeah. And agreed to do that. I feel like that is I felt like that would be a good investment. I'll make the first week's payment and then you got to do the rest.
What did you base that decision on?
Um, I she wouldn't be able to pay for it without it because she doesn't have money right now, and she does
Mm-hmm.
have some that she will be getting in the next couple of weeks. And she's actually going to a school. She's going to be attending a school, so I want to support her in the positive things, not the negative things. So
Right, but like you said earlier, it sounds like she has become more committed to her sobriety and to her success. And so one of the things we talked about is that if she's going to show commitment towards her success and her sobriety, then sure, by all means, don't give her money, but go ahead and
right,
pay for it, get her up on her off her, on her feet. And
right.
that's perfectly okay. I think that's a really important thing for people to understand, the distinction between I'm just going to go ahead and pay all the bills and take care of everything, and no, I'm going to help her for the first week because she's showing the effort.
Right. And the other thing is it will be sustainable after the first week for her. She can sustain paying that with what she has put in place to be able to pay it. So, I didn't want to just pay for a week and then have her have to move out. That's not sustainable. So it had to be something that she could continue to, work at. So that was the other piece of it.
Cool. That's fantastic. Here's the thing that I see, and I'm really happy to hear that Paige is doing well, and it makes me really feel good. But what really makes me feel happy is you actually sort of changing the way you're handling it and changing the way you're addressing her, right? Is because my belief system is that if we can change the family system and the way we address the addiction and the addict, that's the biggest change that can occur, to actually support her and say, hey, I love you. And if you're going to continue to do drugs, you're just going to have to do that somewhere else. You can't do it here. But if you want help for sobriety, oh my God, I will move heaven and earth for you. And if you want to choose that option, I'm here for you. But if you're going to choose the other option, I just can't participate because it's taking my life down. And one of the other things we talked about earlier that I want you sort of to talk about, and what I would like it if you could sort of share with it, is a conversation you had with her about, hey, I'm getting close to retirement, and it's time for me to take care of me.
Exactly.
Tell me about that.
It's wearing. It's wearing on everybody in the family, not just me as her mother. Her sisters, even, she's very close with her nieces and nephews. They felt the loss of her leaving to go to prison very, especially my oldest grandson had a very close bond with her and still does. And so again, her coming back into the picture, dropping in and out, we've had to have these conversations even about boundaries with the kids because their little hearts get broken. And, it's difficult for them, and then it causes them trauma. But I definitely was talking to her about, you're going to be 32 now in July, and I'm getting closer to retirement, and I need to put myself first, and I don't feel like I think before I was feeling like that was selfish, but on some levels, we kind of have to be selfish. If I don't take care of myself, we all hear that, mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy kind of stuff. If I don't take care of myself, I can't take care of my family. And I've really felt like it has been, and then on top of with COVID and everything else, it's just been very emotionally taxing year. The last couple years have been very taxing. And she needs to realize that if she wants a different life, she can have it. It's every choice she makes every single day. When she wakes up, you can either take path A or path B, choose life or choose death. And that's really how I look at it. And, like I said, it's hard to watch them self-destruct. But they have to want it, and you have to let them make mistakes. And then, you can be there sometimes for the soft landing, but not that enabling that I have been so guilty of in the past. A soft landing is okay, but then having the boundaries and saying, okay, when you step out of this, then you've gone too far. And like you were saying, okay, you have to leave now. So, so I think that's what I'm looking at.
Yeah, and that's always the challenge as a parent because you want to be there, you want to support them, you want to help them, but at the same time, so like where do you draw that line? What where does enabling start, and where do boundaries start, and how do you coexist with those two?
Right.
How did you? I mean, can you talk about how you kind of got to that place emotionally within yourself where you were like, I can't do this anymore.
Um, well, we didn't really talk much about my middle daughter, Haley.
Oh,
So
okay.
while just because that kind of helped too. Well, uh, she kind of had what we would call a Britney Spears meltdown. Shaved her head on Facebook Live, um, and
Oh my.
started using some. She was suffering from postpartum depression after having 3 children back to back. And now, in retrospect, we saw it, but you know, we didn't see it at the time. And she started using drugs. She had left her husband, and she had moved in with us after she shaved her head, but I didn't know was using drugs.
Ah,
So she moved in, and she had her children with her, and then it was revealed that she was using drugs. We started noticing, all the signs, and we actually, because she was living in her house and we had to remove her from the situation, we did call CPS and got them involved,
okay.
because we needed their support in this. And so she was removed from our home, and literally she was on the streets living in her car. But it didn't take her long. We were given guardianship of the kids. We became their foster children. The baby was 6 months. They were 6. I think the oldest was 4 at that time.
Okay.
So, 6 months to 4, they were little. And we actually were their guardians for almost 3 years. Even though Haley was doing really well after like the first 6 to 8 months, she did a 90-day program. She did everything that CPS asked us. She had to, get herself right. And I have to say that they were very supportive of her and getting her back with her children.
Oh,
That was the goal. It wasn't ever for us, her children to be taken away. And they provided so many resources that she would not have had CPS not been involved. So we had the kids, and Haley now is like almost 4 years sober,
oh,
and she's everything. She has been sober for 4 years. She doesn't even drink. She plays sober softball. She works in recovery as a case manager, and a BHT. I mean, she's just immersed herself in it, which is great. And she had gotten her children back. But there have been conversations with her that have brought light to some of the things that I did differently with her that I didn't do with Paige. And she kind of was comparing the two.
like what?
And well, the first we were just like, you're out. Sorry. you know, this isn't acceptable. Bye. Kind of, that's how she saw it. But there was also 3 little children involved.
Yeah.
And it did make a difference, I think, in my mind, although she didn't necessarily see it that way. And she's the one that will point out now when I'm being, I don't know, blind to things that may be happening, or, not paying as close attention to detail. And so she has been, an advocate for me in that way and trying to protect me, because I know that's her, that's what she wants to do. Of course, she wants
Right.
to see her sister better too. But so
Mm-hmm.
Haley's been very helpful, and so is Shelby. So Shelby's my youngest, and luckily no addiction issues with her. Um, so there's hope.
Awesome.
There's always
Well,
hope.
yeah, right. And so what I'm hearing you say is that with Paige, you may have made some mistakes and then eventually turned it around and corrected them. And then, but with Haley, you obviously were a little bit more prepared due to the experience. And so you were really clear with her on what the boundaries were. And then so you had to step in, you and your current husband, Darren, right? And and you guys stepped in, took care of the kids, drew a really tight line, made it real clear and concise. And what I think it's important for the people that are watching or listening to understand is, so while that was happening, wasn't Paige kind of going in and out of prison at that point too?
Yes, for most of the time we had the kids, she was in prison. Her last sentence was over 3 years. Okay. And so, and that's the other thing. If, she's looking at some real time, like if she gets any other kind of charges, she's going to be going to prison. And she functions very well in prison, and she'll tell you that.
Yeah.
It's almost sad, but, she gets along very well in prison. And that's where she's, straight now. So.
And I hear that from other families in this environment where they're, because prison is a very structured environment. Things are very regimented, but I think it's important to acknowledge and understand is that, so while you've got your oldest daughter going into that environment, your middle daughter now is struggling, and you're taking on the kids as well as taking on her situation. I mean that's most people deal with one. Right. And you're dealing with 2 and 3 children.
Right.
So
until Haley got the kids back, the baby only knew our house. Like, so we do have, a very special bond with those kids, obviously. But we're close with all our grandkids. They're always at our house. They're just, we love that. I think that was part of why I was able to be so strong with Haley and set those boundaries, is because I felt like I had to represent the kids. I had to be the kids' advocate. But I never saw it as being my own advocate with Paige. And I don't know if that makes sense.
No, it makes perfect sense. I think because, I think the first time, in most families that I work with, the first time this happens, it's such a like, what the hell is this? And, this is my kid. And what do you mean toss him out? I'm not going to toss my kid out. You don't understand. And you kind of go through, when it was with your first husband, it was just a little, after a while, it got a little bit easier, not easier, but it's just like, it's cut and dry. It's like, out, you're an adult, beat it. And, right. but with your child, it's definitely more of a challenge. But then, I think, it's like you got seasoned, unfortunately. And so, and it's like, so I'm a therapist, you're a nurse, your first couple of patients, you're like wide-eyed and you're like, oh, okay, I don't understand what's going on. And then, about a year later, you're like, yeah, don't worry about it. I'll get there. It's all, everything's, I got this, and
well, I think it happens so insidiously, kind of like the pain pill husband. It kind of insidious. Like, you don't know it's happening. And it's kind of like putting a frog in the pot of boiling water. If you drop them in the boiling water, they're going to jump out. But if you just turn it on cold water on a heater, they just die. And that's kind of what I think is the best analogy.
Yeah.
Because some of them up on you and you don't really realize. And then in other situations, it's very, much, the pot jumping into the frog in the boiling water situation. So,
yeah. So I'm curious. Sorry. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. What?
No. You finish.
Oh, I was just going to say, it's a process, and I'm really glad that I have had people like you that I can turn to, along the way and ask for help. Because even as a nurse, I've been trained in a lot of different areas, but when it's your family, you just have a different view. It's easier to be objective with other people. It really is. It really is.
Yeah.
So I'm thankful. I thank you.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I'm honored that you called and asked for help. And I thank you for coming on and for sharing your story so openly and clearly. Because I think, this is the thing that people need to hear. It's one thing for me clinically to explain things to people. It's another thing for someone to come on and say, yeah, so, had to end my first marriage, had to throw out my first kid, had to throw out my second kid, had to take over the babies, and it's like, this this is real life. This is this is what's going on today,
Right.
And
thank God I remarried a saint, Saint Aaron. He's just I'm so thankful for him. Yeah. And a lot of other people have blended families. And I know it is difficult, trying to keep your marriage together when your kids are self-destructing, because you might have different philosophies on what's going to work and, what to do. And so I really am thankful that I'm, married to somebody that supports me and my children in a healthy way, and that we can have those difficult conversations. If he sees me derailing or going the wrong way, he's like, hey, get back on the path.
Yeah. What do you, so here's the next thing that I always kind of like to ask people in your situation is, what do you do to take care of you?
Well, I really wasn't doing a lot. To be honest with you, especially over the last year, as a nurse working through COVID, it's just been crazy. But with Paige, all of the stuff happening with Paige and Haley being on the right track and looking more towards our retirement, I'm doing more for me this summer. I'm not working. I'm a professor of nursing. And so I teach, and I have a 9-month teaching contract. So this summer I am taking the summer off from any work in the hospital. I'm just working a couple of days. I have moved to Sedona, Arizona for the summer, where we took a job camp hosting. We camp here all the time previously. So now we're living here, and it's been great. Just getting outside, enjoying the things that I want to do, reconnecting with my faith, and spending some more quality time with my husband, because we had only been married. I don't even think we were married a year when we took Haley's 3 children on. So that was a big ask, and that was a big ask. So we're having fun.
Yeah, I mean, so what I'm hearing you say is that you have your faith, which is important to you. You spend a lot of time outdoors, and then you have your husband, Saint Darren, as we're going to call him from here out, who within the first year of being with you instantly had 3 grandchildren.
Right.
And I mean, that is incredible and amazing.
Even blink an eye. I mean, he was the one just like, no, this is what we're doing.
Yeah.
Okay. So.
Oh my gosh, that's incredible. Oh, hey, look.
A little more campfire time. That's what I see in my future.
Yeah, more s'mores.
Right.
With the grandchildren.
Yes.
We have a comment from Marie Ridley. It says, "Thank you for sharing your story." That's cool. Well, so, I feel like we've done a really effective job of explaining sort of what it is you were experiencing, and then, how you actually drew some boundaries and held the line, and how hard it was to do, because it's your kid and you're terrified of what's going to happen. And then, sort of where you're at now. And I really love what you talked about, where you're at now with the concept of, I can't do it for her. She's going to have to do it for herself. I can support her. If she makes good choices and good decisions, I will be right there with her. But if she chooses to go back to the drugs and the lifestyle, I just can't participate, because I have a marriage, I have other children, I have grandchildren, I have responsibilities, and I can't let one person take the entire team down.
Exactly. That's exactly right. Yeah.
And that's just incredible. And I'm just so grateful. I'm so grateful to have you on here. I'm so grateful that you reached out. And your story is so touching and so awesome. I feel like I have this idea that what I would like to do maybe sometime in the future is get the whole gang on a call and talk about what their perspective was like, if they're comfortable with that, and we can pursue that later. But see how Haley and Paige and Darren, I just blanked. on the youngest one?
Shelby.
And because I would definitely, my whole thing is understanding how the family engages in this process and what it's like for them and the process they've had to go through. And I think it'd be fun.
Like Shelby will tell you that, and I even had this conversation with her because we were caretakers, basically primary caregivers to our 3 grandchildren. She felt like her grandchildren sometimes, or her children were sometimes missing out on our time. And, we have had some of these difficult conversations, but I think they need to be had. But I think they would all be open to sharing because, and they can probably share more of the mistakes I made that I'm not aware of. They'd probably be happy to tell you that.
Well, I'm an advocate of that. We get where we get, how we, it's okay where we get there. It's not about trying to be perfect in the process. It's more about the results. And so it sounds like, everybody's doing well and everyone's on the right path. And,
right.
But I definitely, I think I would definitely want everyone to come on, but I also think I'd like to check in, in 3 to 6 months and see how everybody's doing. And if there's been any other newer challenges and you can help other people, understand, because I think the most important thing we can do is share our experience with people in the process. And that allows them to realize that this is not an academic concept. This is real life. This is how I dealt with this.
Right. Well, and that's something I think we talked earlier is Paige is always saying, I want this. This is what I want. And I'm like, stop telling me and do it. Walk it out. I don't believe anything you say anymore. I have to see it. So if you want it, do it. Do it. It's just one choice. Every choice you make. So.
And the thing, and the thing is, speaking as someone who is, a recovering addict, and I having had said those things when I was using, she means those things. And she's not lying. It's just we don't know how to get there, and that's we don't know what to do or how to do it, and we want it. We're just like we get to a place where we're like, I don't know what to do, and so I'm glad that she has the support system in place outside of the family, to help her through that process. That's awesome. Cool. Yeah. Well, Tina, you are a star. I'm just and oh hey, I mean, come on, let's also talk about the fact that you've been a nurse and you're, as I remember, you were nursing in the ER, right? Or in
neurotrauma ICU.
oh, okay. Is that all? during the whole COVID pandemic. So, I mean, I'm willing to bet that you were wearing a hazmat suit for the last year and a half, pretty much all day, every day. And,
and it's been a tough year for nurses. So love your nurses.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. No questions asked. And I'm just so proud of you. And I'm so proud of how far you've come. And thank you so much for being on the show today. It's been awesome.
Thank you for all your help.
Oh, it's my pleasure. It's absolutely my pleasure. Hey, folks, there is a 1-hour video course. It's only $37 that you can check out. That basically goes over all the stuff Tina and I have been talking about. It's available on the website, and it's normally $97. It's currently $37. So and there's a code there. I think actually you just click on it and it goes right into it. And be sure again and subscribe to our YouTube channel and to the Chronic Hope podcast on Spotify and on Apple Podcasts. Please click and give us a 5-star rating and maybe put a comment on there. That would be really wonderful for us. And this has just been the Chronic Hope Institute podcast, episode 17, the journey of a wife and a mom dealing with addiction in her family. And again, Tina, I just want to give you the big bear hug and tell you how proud I am of you, how much I love you, and how awesome you are. And thanks for your time.
Thank you, Kevin.
Okay, everybody. We'll see you guys next time.